All right, Brian. So how long have you been a realtor now?
So I've been in the real estate game since the end of 2013.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm about to make 12 years.
Which brokerage are you with?
So I'm with EXP Realty.
Okay, and what inspired you to get into real estate?
So when I started off in real estate, I was working for a company. I was working for U-Haul. I also had my own moving business on the side, and I was going down to community college, right? And
Wow.
so I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do, right? I moved out at a young age, and so I was working a job, moving jobs, which I took on the side. We would rent a truck and have some friends of mine. Was how I kind of made some extra money, and that was like my first step into really the world of doing business for yourself, right? Going to people's houses, giving them quotes, doing the job, and just learning what comes with that. But it was also my first step into the world of transactions, right? Of real estate.
Sales.
Um, I met a very successful realtor with Remax, when I was in moving, right? Before being an agent was even a thought.
Hmm.
And he used to send me business. He's still a very successful broker. And he's the one, and seeing him kind of inspired me because I'd be moving couches up 6 flights of stairs, and
Wow.
he, he'd be on the phone and drop off a bottle of wine to the seller and drive off in a nice car. And I said, I want to do that. I always felt like there was I had this drive and I just needed a vehicle for it. So I started off in real estate. Literally went with the very first broker to call me back, right? I went and I filled out applications online. It was like this small Coldwell Banker office. And my first year, my broker just gave me Zillow leads, and he didn't tell me to pre-qualify or pre-approve or screen them or do a buyer consultation. He just said, everyone's closable. Just call them, put them in your car, show them whatever they want to see. And I was taking breaks from my job, lunch breaks to go show people properties. And altogether, my first year, I closed 3 deals, and they were so small that I made less than 5 grand, right? And I was gonna quit, right? I mean, I'm grateful that I closed something, but I was gonna quit, and my brokerage closed down,
Wow.
right? And well, I had to switch brokerage, and I never thought of leaving because I just didn't know what else was out there, and I'm just a loyal person, I think, when it comes to that. But what I did is I went back and I started applying places again. And at the time, Keller Williams reached out to me in the Bronx, right? Keller Williams is a company with large offices, a lot of agents. And so I was able to kind of go into this environment where I got to see a lot of the other agents work, right? The first office I was with maybe had 10 agents, and I was lucky if any of them was in the office. This one, Keller Williams, had over 100.
Wow.
Um, what I started to learn going into an office with a lot of agents, top agents, is that the agents who do well go after listings, right? Get a lot of listing business. And so I started to go to trainings and I started making phone calls for expired listings. And at the time, I didn't have Redex or anything. I would go on the MLS, look up their name, go on white pages, find the phone number, make a spreadsheet and call them one by one, right? And I called them using the desk phone at the office because I felt a little more confident, doing it like that than using my cell phone. But built a habit out of it, and I started to take listings my second year, right? My third year in real estate was really where I think where the magic happened. I closed about 22 deals, right?
Wow.
It was
22.
about 230,000, right, in GCI.
Wow.
And I had quit my job at U-Haul the beginning of my third year. I quit my job, right? My second year, I made as much money as I was making at my job. And I always tell agents, mentees, when they ask me, like, when should I quit my job and go full time? And I think the answer to that is when you're making the same amount or more in terms of income that you're making at your job as you are in real estate, that's the time that you make that decision, right?
When you match your salary.
When you when you match, because now you can support your lifestyle with either or. So, at that point, go with whatever has more growth potential, right? So, I did that, and my third year in real estate, towards the end, I started building a team, right? And
Oh,
so I didn't know too much about building a team back then, but I just kind of had other agents come and share my database with me and make calls with me, right? And take listings. And we did. And my fourth year in real estate did about 340,000 in GCI. It was about
wow.
36 transactions.
Wow.
Um, and
36
my
closings?
36 closings,
Wow.
36, right?
Wait, by yourself or with the team?
with the team, with
Okay.
the team,
Okay.
36 being on my transactions, and then if it's closed with a team member, it's half a transaction.
Okay.
It's so half a transaction, and if it's double ended, it's two, right? If it's me. So units, right? 36 units.
Okay.
And then my fifth year in real estate, we did 51, right?
Wow.
Total,
Wow.
right?
How many people on the team?
So it fluctuated, right? It was between, for the most part, it was mostly about three other agents on my team for a while, right? And then some came in and some left, right? As we continued through, right? In 2019, right, I had the idea to start maybe I should start my own brokerage, right? And so I kind of went down that road, right, of trying to do that. But what happened is I got into a lease on an office space in the Bronx, a ground floor.
Bronx.
But it was
Okay, where are you?
I'm sorry.
You said the Bronx. Where are you located?
Oh, I'm in New York, Bronx, New York,
Which part?
Bronx, New York.
Oh, you're in the Bronx. I didn't know you were that far. I'm in Long Island. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I was. So now I live in about an hour away,
Oh,
right,
wow.
upstate,
Oh, you're
outskirts.
upstate. Okay.
And my business covers pretty much all of New York City, Westchester County, and the neighboring areas
You don't come
nearby.
over to our side, Long Island. You don't come here.
Sometimes I've done a few deals. I did a deal in Lynbrook last year. I've done a closing in Massapequa, but it's not a huge part of it. Now, so long story short, right, was try to do the broker thing. It didn't work out because I got into a lease on a space with a bunch of violations and I didn't realize it and I couldn't do renovation.
Mm.
So I stayed with Keller Williams. And then when COVID happened, I stopped coming into the office.
Mm.
Right. And at that time, like most other agents, we weren't able to really go show or do calls or anything. So my entire team kind of collapsed at that point,
Wow.
right?
Wait,
And then
during COVID?
I'm sorry, during COVID, pretty much we were all working from home, right? There was not enough transactions going on to support everyone. So we kind of at the time had to restructure,
But wasn't
right?
COVID the hot time?
Oh no, I mean in 2020.
Oh, before. Yeah,
You mean
yeah.
2020. So March, if you remember, when COVID first hit in March of 2020, April of 2020, um, all of the offices closed,
Right.
right?
Well, I wasn't a realtor back then.
Oh, you weren't? Okay. So I'll just tell you a little history. In April of 2020, all right, when COVID hit and there was lockdowns, the offices closed, right? So we weren't going into the offices anymore.
Mm.
We weren't allowed to show properties for a certain period of time, right? So there
Oh,
was
you
still
weren't
a
allowed to show properties. Okay.
yeah, but the biggest thing was that any type of mortgage, any type of loans, there's so many people who were being furloughed from work and laid off that a lot of my transactions at the time, more than half of most agents' transactions fell apart. They either fell apart or if the buyer and seller were willing to hang on long enough, eventually when everything reopened, they closed. But most of the deals fell apart. And so it was this period of time where it was like, oh my God, like what do we do? Like I'm home and I can't do anything. So kind of restructured. And what I started to realize not going into the office is that for me, I can get done anything that I was doing before from an office, I can get done from home.
Yep, yep.
Right. And so I did that. I had a full-time assistant on salary at the time. And I laid her off because whatever she was doing from home, I was able to have a virtual assistant in the Philippines do that, right?
Oh, really?
a lot cheaper, right? So what I did is I left Keller Williams. I went to EXP Realty, right? Because it's just more catered towards a virtual agent. And instead of building a team going forward, I started to build a downline with EXP. Essentially, a lot of the agents who I worked with, right? I invited them to join the company with me, and I would help them in their business and mentorship and whatnot, right? So right now, fast forward to today, I have over 300 transactions closed. It's mostly on the listing side, and about 76 agents in my organization. And when it comes to showings, open houses, putting lock boxes on doors and signs. I always have someone within those 75 people that I can reach out to, and we can always work something out. So essentially, I don't have a team like I used to have, but instead, I have this organization that I can tap into and rely upon.
Wait, so when you say you have an organization, did you ever go back to being are you a broker or are you an agent?
So I am an agent, right? I have my broker's license, but
Oh,
I'm
you
an
have your
agent
broker's license.
with the company, right? And so a lot of cloud-based companies, right, that exist today, EXP, Real, and some of the others that exist,
Mhm.
will have a multi-level marketing element to them, right, which is a downline, right? And with a downline, that allows if an agent is a fit for the company, if you attract that agent to the company, you earn a residual income off of their production, right? There are quite a few companies that work this way now, right?
Mhm.
And so with that, because I had taught a lot of trainings when I was at Keller Williams, helped a lot of agents, but it was more about the culture of the office. Is that's the thing to do when you're a producer, but I was never really paid for it. And so with EXP, it afforded me an opportunity to help agents build their business without them having to join a team with me and split their commission with me, right? Because I was earning a little piece of what the company was getting,
I see.
right? And so it allowed me to focus on my own business, but when I needed help and I needed leverage, I had people to tap into, right? Um, in terms of lead generation now, my team, right? The way that that looks is it's two virtual assistants, right? I have one in the Philippines, one in Nicaragua that make calls for me in my database. And then I have a virtual administrative assistant who's in the Philippines and helps me with like memos and offers to purchase and stuff like that, putting up listings.
Very interesting. So EXP is a cloud-based brokerage, correct?
Correct, it is.
So
Yes.
I want to talk about this because I'm part of HomeSmart. I'm not a cloud-based brokerage, but I have a friend who is part of a cloud-based brokerage, and I referred a new agent to her. And after about a month, the new agent, this is not EXP, it's someone else. And the new agent was really honestly not too happy. She said, I don't think a cloud-based brokerage was the right fit for me. So I want to talk about the pros and cons of a cloud-based brokerage. What are the pros? What are the cons?
So the pros to a cloud-based brokerage are usually that the commission split is going to be a lot better to the agent, because you're not paying a broker who needs to pay rent for an office or anything else that comes with that. Um, a lot of the companies are different, right? But oftentimes there is some kind of equity distribution at cloud-based companies, where because they're not brick and mortar independent owner operators, typically they're publicly traded companies that are national in every state. And so oftentimes there will be a publicly traded stock that's awarded to agents when they reach certain milestones,
Mhm.
right? And quite a few of them work that way. Additionally, larger cloud-based companies tend to be in every market. Oftentimes, if you join a national cloud-based company, if you are multi-state, you don't have to pay two different brokers. You're just paying one company, no matter what state you do your production in.
Interesting.
So for that agent who doesn't really need an office environment, then it's great. The cons to a cloud-based company is, of course, that there are no offices. There are some agents who work heavily in the office when it comes to meeting clients, right? Certain clientele that want to meet in person. Personally, I meet most of my clients at their residence, at their house when I'm giving them a home estimate, right? Or I don't do much buyers today, but when I did buyers and I was cloud-based, we were often doing Zoom calls to discuss which actually is more efficient because we can share screen and we
Yep.
can show MLS and listings online. But some agents tend to appreciate more of a face-to-face interaction when it comes to training, and when it comes to just being in a workplace,
Mhm.
right? So that those agents who really need that office environment, a cloud-based company might not be for them.
Yeah, so her biggest complaint was that she felt like she wasn't getting the support that she wanted.
Yes. So, and I say this to everyone. Um, Oftentimes, it's not so much the company itself. Agents don't join companies, agents join agents.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is that you can join, let's just take a franchise company such as Century 21 or Keller Williams or Remax, right? One office in one location can have a very different culture and productivity, right, than another office of that same company somewhere else, right? And so one of those offices can have a very low level of training and one can have a high level of training, right? For example, I joined Coldwell Banker as my first office. I had no training. There are some Coldwell Banker offices that have phenomenal training, right? And so with a cloud-based company, oftentimes instead of joining the independent owner, you're joining a sponsor, right? The person who attracted you to the company. And if you're in a cloud-based company and you're an agent and your goal is to attract a lot of agents to an organization, to a group, right, to earn a passive income, there has to be some level of systems and support to have for your agent, even if you're cloud-based, right? Because being cloud-based does not prevent um, an agent from looking at trainings, from attending virtual trainings. There are a lot of trainings like with the MLS, for example. Our board of realtors does trainings on how to use the MLS and do it most effectively. There's so much content and so much material out there. It's just some agents may prefer to be in an environment where they're in person learning that stuff, right? But there's way more information online than needed of how to be successful as an agent. It's really up to having that guidance and someone to say, here's where to find it, right? Here's what you need to watch. Here is where to find it, you know?
So
These
say
are
a
your
say a brand new agent were to join EXP, what would the per closing cost be for a brand new agent?
Yeah, that's a good question. So EXP, the base split, it's an 80-20 split with a $16,000 cap, right? Which means that once the 20% that you pay to EXP equates to $16,000 in a year, the agent's at 100% commission split until their reset date, right? Now, new agents do join what's called the mentorship program with EXP. And that is where, for the first three transactions, they're assigned a mentor with the company, which is another agent who has to reach a certain level of production to qualify as a mentor. And for those first three deals, the new agent's split is 60-40 instead of 80-20. And the additional 10%, the additional 20% is split between the mentor, who earns 10% of production, and EXP, who basically takes the additional 10% as a risk management fee for taking a new agent on, right? And so once the agent graduates from the mentorship program, which is does those three deals, then they're on the 80-20 split for the remainder of their career, with the $16,000 cap, which means, of course, when we do $80,000 in gross commissions, 20% of that being 16,000, we're at 100% commission for the rest of the year.
Wow, so you keep after 16,000, you keep 100%. That's pretty
We keep up.
Yeah,
We
because
keep 100%, and the company, if we reach a certain milestone in production, the company will give us back the 16,000 in the form of stock equity.
is there a monthly fee or a yearly fee or anything like that?
Oh, it's about $95 a month.
95 a month. Okay.
That covers technology. We have a choice between three different CRM systems that we give to our agents. So there's Closed, Lofty, and Bold Trail, which was formerly KV Core. Great CRMs. We also have DigiSign for electronic documents, and a couple of other things. We're cloud-based, but we have a membership with the Regis International. So wherever you are with EXP, you have access to the closest Regis office in your market, which is basically like a WeWork. It's a business lounge with Wi-Fi where you can go and work.
Does a new agent have to join the mentorship program or is that voluntary?
That is only if they do not qualify in terms of production. So if an agent has done less than three transactions over the past calendar year, or if it's like an agent who say that they've taken off from real estate for 5 years, but they have the production in the past to show. If you don't have past production to show, if you're brand spanking new, then you have to join it, right? If you have past production, you can show that and they will waive you from the mentorship program.
Interesting. Okay. So, Brian, walk us through a normal day in your shoes. What time do you wake up? Coffee or tea? What kind of coffee or tea? Walk us through a normal day.
Yeah, so a normal day is we're being woken up at 7:30 by our two kids marching around through the room, right? Wake up, black coffee. I don't
Yuck.
add anything to it. And around say around 9:30, 10 o'clock, I start to prospect. I do my prospecting in the morning, right? So my prospect consists of geographic calls, right, for specific type of property in a specific market and price range, right? And what I'm looking to do is it's a very simple script. Hi, my name's Brian. I'm a local realtor, just calling to see if there are any plans to sell the house this year. I
You only
call
call people in the area?
in a specific market. Yeah. Well, I'll call people right now, right? It shifts during time, right? Right now, for example, I'm calling multifamily in the Bronx, right? Which is for me, it's an area I've worked extensively. It's a high demand product that I know, right? And so what I'm doing is I used to call expireds. I don't really do it anymore. There's not, I don't feel that there's enough transaction volume and listing volume to really give a good amount of expireds, and a lot of other agents are calling it. So what I do is I call a large area, right? So for example, I'll map out the Bronx, right? I will call people who have owned for over 10 years, right? In a specific type of property that I'm looking for, right? And I will just call that list. And um, I'm looking to add people to my database, right? I'm looking to get as many future sellers in a day, as many nurtures as possible. Most of my business, it's not me on the phone booking an appointment and going over there. It's me on the phone talking to somebody for the first time, them adding them into the system. They get mailers, they get text messages, they get market reports, and then eventually, oftentimes, they will reach back to me and tell me that they're ready, right? And so I prospect to add to a marketing database of people, not so much to convert appointments today, because this is a long game. It's a marathon.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like a very long-term plan because these people could sell in 5, 10, 15 years. So
That's
right, it might, oh, I'm wondering like, do it, that's a very new, interesting strategy to me because now I'm wondering like, doesn't it take a really long time for them to
It
get?
does. So yeah, it's a good question,
Yeah.
right? So if we're going to get on the phones today,
Mhm.
right? and just start calling people, right, in an area. Say it's Long Island, right? We're mapping out, we're filtering out anyone who's purchased in the past 10 years, and we're just calling down the list, right? Do you think you'll get more people who are ready to sell next week, or more people who are going to sell sometime within the next 2 years?
The latter, of course.
Of yes, by a great margin.
Of course, yeah.
And so that is where the when you're prospecting to really make the best use of the time and maximize, we want to focus on those leads, right? And don't get me wrong, there have been many times where I'm calling and somebody might be ready to sell soon, right? In the next week or two, right? But most of the time, if somebody's ready to sell next week, they've already been in touch with an agent who's met them in the past and has mailed them in the past, right?
Mhm.
And so if every day you're adding, say, 5 future sellers to a database, and on every Thanksgiving, every New Year, every Easter, every Christmas, every major holiday, we're sending some kind of text message to them. Every month, we're sending them an email market report, right, for their zip code, depending on whether we have an email for them or not, right? We try to get one. We're sending them a market report. The first of every calendar year, we're mailing them a calendar magnet, right? And we will send them that if we speak to leads in February, March, April, anytime before September, we're still sending the calendar magnet to new ones immediately that we speak to. Over time, what happens is now we have this database that we're marketing to, and we don't have to so much rely on, say, calling for expired listings, right? Or paying for Zillow to get leads today, because those leads that we spoke to last year are converting, right? So right now I have about 15 active listings. And almost all of them, apart from the ones that were referrals, are people that we've been in touch with over a period of time that eventually we've built a wall around them, a wall of marketing, where if another agent calls them, it's very hard for them to get through because they have an agent already. You know, my magnetic calendar is on their refrigerator, right? The picture of me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, they're getting texts from me on the holidays, and they're not even getting texts from their friends, let alone other agents, right? So we eventually get to a point with them where we walk in the door and it's almost like they're a client of ours already. And so that and taking on that strategy of prospecting enhanced marketing is really what's allowed me to live a life where I spend less than 20 hours a week on my real estate business, and I'm still able to make six figures, more than six figures in a year. So that's the approach that I've been taking. And the bigger the database grows of people that you're just marketing to passively, ultimately, the more business over time that you're going to get from it.
Just to clarify, you said less than 20 hours a week?
I work less than 20 hours a week. Yeah, in my real estate business.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a really really good ratio of time to money. That's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this new strategy into my podcast because I've never heard this strategy before. Very very interesting. And I would like to add that people would rather deal with realtors that they've known for 2, 3 years, even if you haven't been talking, than realtors who are brand spanking new because that face on the fridge, it has a little bit of an emotional connection, doesn't it?
That's right. That's right. And if a brand spanking new agent um, was able to put some time and money into getting the technology and the marketing material, and doing the calls and doing the prospecting, they can very quickly scale. And I've seen it. I've had agents that I've mentored and I've coached that are scaling their business now, and they're doing amazing through taking on that strategy, right? Because ultimately, people are busy. especially here in New York, right? People work, they come home, they want to be with their family. They don't have time to be looking up agents and looking at their reviews and their past sales. It just has to feel right, and they need to get their questions answered and just have some confidence in the agent who's going to be working with them, right? If a new agent can get to a place where they're comfortable getting on the phones and just making contacts and generating leads and doing the marketing, right? Whereas writing a handwritten note card or ordering cards and marketing materials, something to send and following up with them. When it comes time that they go on the appointment, oftentimes, almost 90% of the time, they can call a experienced agent that can go with them and help them close the appointment and co-list it with them, and they can watch that agent and see how they handled it and ultimately learn how to do it themselves. That way, while they're continuing to build their pipeline, they can start working those deals by themselves instead of partnering somebody in, right? But the biggest challenge is what we call the plateau of latent potential. And what that is that they're making the calls, they're working. 2 weeks go by, 6 weeks go by, they haven't closed the deal yet, and the frustration starts to kick in. And the excitement from when it was new and it was, exciting, that starts to go away, and they have to work through that frustration. But what's happening is that if they're continuing and they're consistent, they are getting closer and closer to that point where eventually they're going to see the results of their work. But getting to that point, the valley of disappointment where you're you've already worked so much where you feel tired, but there is that latent potential that exists where if you just keep going, it's like that image of the guy digging for the diamond and there's just a little thin wall, but he gives up, right? You just keep on going and you break through that, then eventually, you start to see the results of it. But that's why it's important, of course, for new agents to have some kind of a part-time or full-time job, right? And manage their schedule where they can have an income from their job, but they're still doing this on the side, right? And it only takes, you know, a couple of hours a week of calling to really generate, some leads. It's something that you do consistently over time. It's not about, calling for 30 hours in a week and trying to get some business. It's calling, for 2 or 3 hours each week over a long enough period of time where the results start to show.
Yes. So you gave me a lot to respond to. I've always said that I believe the number one most important quality for a realtor to have is persistency, because that first year is so rough. I mean, even three closings, that's actually a lot for the first year. So I want to emphasize and highlight what you said, where it's like you have to keep pushing. You're gonna the first year, maybe even the first 2 years, business is gonna be slow. It's gonna be slow. Maybe you have connections, probably not, but it's gonna be slow. You have to keep pushing. You have to not give up, and you will eventually get to that plateau where business is consistent, but it could take a long time, and that's why it's important to have a job to fund real estate. But yeah, I always say I think persistency and just not giving up is so important and absolutely necessary in real estate. I think it's like 85% of people quit in the first year because they simply, a lot of them lack persistency. So don't expect, for the new people listening, don't expect your first year to go super well. Don't expect to make six figures. I would say to expect less than 50K in your first year, but you just got to keep pushing. I want to go back to what you said about handwritten letters, because this is something I've never done before, but I've heard other realtors doing it. Have you found that to be effective?
Yeah, I used to write them myself, and I used to have handwritten letters. And then when I had an assistant, she was writing them for me. Extremely effective. But whenever I speak to a new lead, like, hi, my name's Brian. I'm a local realtor. yada yada. They're selling in 6 months, not right now, but next year we are selling. Okay, great. I'll keep in touch with you. Every new lead gets one of these, right? The gold team is my branding, right? And I had this created for me back in 2017, but I keep it today. And it's pre-printed. So it's thank you for taking my call. Feel free to reach out with any questions about real estate. An image of my signature is placed in there, right? And we do it in like a dark gray ink so it looks real. And that's my info right there, my phone number. And what goes inside is that calendar magnet,
I was
right?
gonna say your face isn't on it.
Yep, that's on it right there, calendar magnet. And it's I like the magnet because if it's just my business card, it doesn't really give any value, right? But people love these little calendar things, right? They love
They
seeing,
use
oh, what
them.
today's date, and you look at it. So I send this in the mail, right? Um, and then everybody who's been sent one, who I speak to, they're on the mailing list, and then in New Year's, we send it again. We send a new one. Except on New Year's holiday time, we'll send something, more like this, happy holidays, from Brian, from the Gold Team or whatever, right? We'll do a new one every year. Um, that combined with mass text messages, right? That new person I speak to gets added to a CRM, right? We use KV Core in a high level. We put their zip code in to get market reports, right? So every month they'll get an update of like how many properties sold in their area, the average sale price. Every holiday they'll get a mass text message and a mass email from us, right? It's just a simple, hey, first name, just wishing you happy Thanksgiving, with an emoji of a turkey or something, right?
Yeah,
And
so I want to highlight that, the reason why Brian and other realtors are so successful is because they spend a lot of money into the business. You have to spend money into this business. It's not a 9 to 5 job. You cannot be successful if you don't spend thousands of dollars into the business. Brian, how much approximately per month do you spend into the business?
it's a good question. Um, I would say that per month, I probably spend, if we're going to break it down monthly, I would say maybe about 2 grand or so.
Wow.
Um, that's just everything combined, right? That's my dialing system. That is if I take the cost of like note cards and all the stuff we do, mailers in a year, and I divide it on a monthly basis. That's my virtual assistants who are making calls for me, who are doing tasks for me, like memos, putting up listings, scheduling showings. Um, that is the technology that I have, right? So all of that all together, right? But and it may sound like a lot, 25,000 in a year, but remember, you can make that back in one or two transactions. And if spending that money is going to get you a dozen or more transactions, then it's way worth it, right? But a big part is that if you start thinking about future business instead of today business, and specifically on the listing side, right? You can, and marketing to those people, you can begin to build a business model where you're working infinitely less hours in a week. You won't have to worry about showing that buyer tomorrow and hoping he makes the right offer on the right property. You don't have to worry about, you have to call and call and call until you reach someone who's going to sell tomorrow, right? You can build a predictable business where um, you start to see a cycle of things. And when I say a cycle, the cycle for me is all throughout the holidays, my database is getting text messages and emails and note cards, and we even send magazines to some of the top people. The like top five past clients, I send a Cutco knife, nice like Cutco closing gift knife, right? So we're sending stuff with the expectation that through the new year in the springtime, when everybody starts to do stuff, we're going to be the ones that they call and reach out to, right? And so the actual prospecting work really goes into just building that database, right? Building out that marketing pipeline that we have.
Yes, yes. So I noticed that you do many different things for leads and to retain clients. And I want to highlight this point for the new people listening, that you have to put in that time and money, especially in the first year. Do not expect to, like Brian, work less than 20 hours and make six figures in the first year. It takes a long time to reach that point. It takes a lot of time and money and energy and not giving up and failing and failing. It takes a lot of failing to get to where Brian is and to become a successful
It,
realtor. It
it
takes a lot of
certainly
waiting.
does. I've had so many deals fall apart, and I've had a lot of late nights. There were a lot of nights where I was calling, and when I was building my business initially, I was calling until 8:30, sometimes 9 o'clock at night, calling expired listings and just grinding it. So there's the grind, right? The grind. But it doesn't have to be such a grind after a certain amount of time.
Yes.
After 5 years in a business, 10 years in a business, it doesn't still have to be such a grind.
Right.
Real estate, it's the beautiful thing about real estate is it's the type of thing where you can work less each year
Yes.
if you have the right systems in place.
Yes.
And so it's a beautiful thing because it's a path to retirement. It really is if you set it up correctly.
That's a really good point. And what I notice is that the more time that goes by, the longer you're in real estate, it becomes more referral based as opposed to having to go out and seek the leads. When I speak to the seniors, 20, 25, 30 years, they all say, "Oh, all my leads are referrals. They don't door knock, they don't cold call. All of their leads are referrals." Brian, I know you're a busy guy. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
All right, thanks a lot, Brian. You gave us a
Right?
lot of information to work with. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow me on Instagram. It's Dale Properties.
All right. Thanks a lot, Brian. Take care,
All right,
man.
thanks. Take
All
care.
right. Bye.